Hello everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of What to Think, VentureBeat's technology news podcast. We've been on sort of an occasional schedule here, but we're back now and we'll continue to bring you episodes every couple of weeks, as often as we can. I'm here today with Jordan Novett.
Hey Dylan, how's it going?
It's going well. It's great to talk to you again. I've missed doing these things with you.
I know, we used to do it almost every week.
I know. We're slightly less frequent than that now, but we will keep these episodes coming.
And we'll keep them good.
Yes. And I can't wait to dive into the news. After the news segment here, we've got a little interview with Kieran Hannon, who is the Chief Marketing Officer of Belkin. And he's a great guy, very interesting. I interviewed him about a month and a half ago. But first, let's talk about this week's news. Why don't you kick us off with the big Microsoft event this week, Jordan?
In New York yesterday, Microsoft brought out its pack of reporters to show off a bunch of hardware. And hardware isn't really in the name of Microsoft. Soft as in software is in Microsoft.
We're not going to start calling it micro hard anytime soon. That was a really lame joke, but I'm so glad you laughed, Jordan.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. So there were 3 Lumia phones, 2 fancy ones and 1 cheap one. 2 new laptops, or maybe I can say tablet-like devices.
Yeah.
There was a Surface Pro 4, which started at $899, which has basically bigger and better everything. And there was this new thing called the Surface Book, inspired partly by Surface, but also it's the first quote-unquote laptop by Microsoft, and it has this hinge that allows you to pop out the screen, and you can use it separately. The GPU stays in the keyboard cover, and so you don't get fancy graphics if you're just using the screen. But it really is a next-generation sort of device, and people were talking about if that's going to be more popular in the future.
So that's sort of interesting. I have to say, the Surface Pro 4, I'm a Surface Pro 3 user, and I like it a lot with a couple of caveats. Its battery life has not been great for me, and I don't imagine that something with a bigger screen and even more storage and more RAM and a faster processor is going to actually make that better.
Well, what if I told you that the keys are a little bit bigger and the mouse pad is a little bit bigger in the Surface? Does that make any difference? You would try the Surface Pro 4?
To battery life? No.
I actually want to try it out. I'm trying to tell you that it doesn't look too shabby, and I've seen the regular Surfaces. These are the up-and-coming ones that are actually legit.
I will say that the Surface Pro 3 is a great piece of hardware. It's beautifully designed. It's a joy to use in most cases, and it looks like the Surface Pro 4 continues that design trend. But this Surface Book is intriguing because, first of all, it's bigger. It has a GPU in it. It has a lot of, I like the separability combined with power aspect of it. But I'm also kind of hopeful, maybe, kind of sort of, that maybe its battery life will be better because they have more room to cram in batteries. I don't know. Do you think that's the case?
I don't know. We haven't gotten a review in yet. But I can tell you that I am interested for a few reasons. One of them is that Google has something very similar now, the Pixel C. People were scratching their heads wondering why Google would come out with this thing that would have a slide-off screen. And now look, there's a very similar product on the market, just much fancier, with a Microsoft logo on it. And it makes that Google product seem a lot more logical.
Apple also came out with the iPad Pro recently. It sort of makes you wonder whether everybody is kind of converging on this same pretty darn good idea.
I want to try it. I'm interested.
Cool.
And I don't really want to have to worry about the folding of the keyboard or the hinge. It's a laptop. It functions like a sturdy laptop. It is, I think, 3 pounds or so it might be a little bulky if you're used to a MacBook Air or something.
Well, I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it, and I'm looking forward to seeing the full VentureBeat review. I know that Emil Protolinsky got a little hands-on time with both of them. He thought they were gorgeous, particularly the Surface Book. Except for the hinge, I think he says it looks a little goofy. Or not pretty.
And you have to hit this button if you want to pop the screen out, which is weird.
You can deal with that. I am looking forward to trying it. So let's talk next about Twitter. I'm kind of interested in this. It's a semi-big week for Twitter, or certainly for Jack Dorsey, who is finally confirmed as the CEO of Twitter. He's back. He's still running Square, too, which is also preparing for an IPO. So he's got to take one company public while rescuing another company from the doldrums.
Good luck with that. But so Twitter Moments was this other big thing that came out of Twitter this week.
Yeah. And that is their attempt to curate the news. I wrote a column about this because Twitter is a great source of news, as you and I know. But you have to put a lot of work into finding that news. And if you're just an ordinary person, you're not friends with a bunch of journalists who you can just easily follow. So it's actually hard to pull the news out. There are a lot of tools out there. Nuzzle is my favorite one for surfacing the news from the social stream, which seems like a really smart idea. And Twitter finally has this Moments, which does the same thing. They're sort of curating moments, not necessarily from your friends, but tweets from all across the Twitterverse that give you kind of a visual way to flip through news stories of the day just by looking at tweets.
Do you think that Twitter was saving up this major product announcement for the exact week when they announced Jack was coming back officially as a CEO?
Probably. Although
that's a conspiracy theory. I just came up with it. I don't know.
No, I think they probably did because, first of all, he's not the one who pulled the trigger on this necessarily. Like, this has been in the works for a long time. It was called Project Lightning before. He probably wanted to have something nice to show the world that wasn't just like, hey, I'm Jack, here I am. Good things are coming, stay tuned. He probably wanted something concrete.
Have you been using it a lot? Do you like it?
No and no. I've used it a little bit. I mean, it's been out for a day, so I've used it a little bit. And I don't really like it. It's sort of pretty. Like, they do a good job of finding really cool photos and little interesting animated video GIF type things. But it feels really shallow. It's like, I want to click through on these stories to learn more. And, refugee crisis in Europe, right? I'm not satisfied just looking at a bunch of tweets or a screenshot of the Washington Post's homepage. Like, I actually want to read the Washington Post story on it, and they don't, as far as I can tell, unless I'm really dumb and I missed it, there's no way to link out to these stories. So that's a big shortcoming.
Okay.
What else happened this week, Jordan? Amazon was up to something, weren't they?
In Las Vegas, Amazon Web Services, the cloud division of Amazon.com, had their annual cloud conference, and it was full of announcements. I actually took a second to compare the number of announcements of new services that they made today in today's first day keynote with all of the news that was announced during both keynotes last year. And there are more in one day than announced in 2 days last year. So they're moving at a very fast pace. I would say that's not like isolated. They've been launching a lot of stuff all year. And it's not like they've saved up everything for this. So kind of impressed with how they were able to enter not one, but two significant markets today. One is security, like a software-defined security kind of thing, and a web application firewall, to be specific. Went further in the security area to provide cloud security, something called Inspector. It's a little bot that you can configure to find when there are security issues in the AWS infrastructure that you're using, building on the web application firewall. And then the final thing was a business intelligence service, a BI tool that really is going to compete with all the heavyweights in enterprise software, I guess you could say, Oracle and SAP.
Wow, that's interesting.
I thought they would save it till the end, but that's how they kick things off, and it was from the get-go very exciting today. So current cloud BI tools like Domo and Burst will be able to use the core engine inside of this new BI tool, which is called QuickSight. And the query time will be a lot shorter.
Because your data's already there in AWS, right?
It's a weird thing because Burst and Domo are actually both users of Amazon Web Services. They're customers. And this is sort of a nice way for Amazon to say, hey, by the way, we're competing with you now. Here's notice. Very interesting. I'm looking forward to what's going to happen.
I just want to call out one really oddball thing, which is Snowball that you wrote about.
Yeah.
It's the biggest, ugliest snowball I've ever seen. It's gray, so it sort of looks like you made the snow from like what's left over in the parking lot in April, and it's rectangular, but it's a giant hard drive basically, so you can just...
It's a bunch of drives, 50 terabytes. So you get this whole thing, you put all your data on it, and then you ship it off to Amazon, and they'll install it on their S3 or whichever storage service you want. And this is the first time Amazon has done hardware. Another, weird software company getting into hardware. It's kind of bizarre, but hey, that's what they did.
What they're essentially saying is that if you have enough data, FedEx is actually the fattest data pipe that you can find, right?
Sure.
The best thing to do is just to throw it all on this hard drive, or this stack of hard drives and just ship it to us by mail.
Because it's so darn slow otherwise to upload it over the internet.
There's a certain pragmatic beauty to that. As ugly as this box is, I gotta give them credit. Like, I'm sure there are customers that want to just dump their data on a box like this and ship it to Amazon
Snowball.
through UPS. Snowball. All right. Well, that's all the time that we have for our news segment, Jordan. So in a moment, we're going to jump to an interview I did with Kieran Hannon, the CMO of Belkin, a couple months ago. So stand by for that. Now let's talk to our guest, Kieran Hannon. He's the Chief Marketing Officer for Belkin. Kieran, welcome to What to Think.
Thank you for having me, Dylan.
How long have you been at Belkin, and what have you been focusing on there?
So I've been at Belkin now a couple of years, Belkin International, and actually when I joined the company, Belkin, the corporate entity, and Belkin, the brand, were both one and the same. And now a couple of years later, we actually have 3 brands. So we're a house of brands, the Belkin brand that everyone knows and loves. Mm-hmm. We also acquired Linksys from Cisco. So Linksys in the networking space, one of the premier networking brands. And then our third brand is Wemo in the Internet of Things smart home space. So Wemo, Linksys, and Belkin.
That's a whole bunch of kind of very consumer-oriented gadgets and connectivity devices and things like that, correct?
Correct, yes, all in consumer electronics space. You're absolutely right.
Can you give us a sense of the scale of the business, how big it is?
Belkin is a privately owned 33-year-old company. And since we're private, we don't release real numbers per se, but you can say we're a $1 billion plus company, mm-hmm. and we've 1,500 employees globally across the 3 brands.
Okay. Now tell me what the CMO of a company like that does. What's your job?
Depends on the day, the moment, the hour. It can change dramatically. Uh-huh. That's the lovely part of the industry we're in. It's pretty fast-paced, so there's no time for boredom or anything like that. It's really, you get to see the results of your efforts pretty quickly. And, you know, for me, it varies by brand. Each brand is in a different space, a different market condition, different set of competitors, and so forth. So if you think about Belkin and the space that we're in, it's quite a highly commoditized marketplace. We are the premium brand in that space. If you look at the MPD data, for instance, in most of the categories that we're in, we're either number 1 or number 2 globally. It's a great space to be in. Building premier products as a company, we talk about working through complexity to simplicity. So we're very user-centric. Everything that we do is always about the user in mind, how they use our products and our solutions to enhance their lives. And that's really the lens we look through everything day in, day out. Then on Linksys, at one point, Linksys had 75% market share in the U.S. They were the leading dominant brand. And so we're really investing that brand again into the product suite, into the software that really enhances their products and really telling that story globally again. So bringing Linksys back in the networking space. And then Wemo, it's a very nascent category, the smart home Internet of Things space. And we're the very first to market actually with a product 3.5 years ago called the Switch. And that was under the Belkin brand. It was a product, and last year we pulled it out as a standalone brand. So there, it's very much about storytelling and educating the world what the benefits of the smart home platform can bring to their daily lives and the magic that they can bring.
What are the challenges, Kieren, of balancing the sort of FMCG space with Belkin versus something where you're effectively having to educate the entire audience as to what it is, like with Wemo?
Stuart, can you translate FMCG for
fast-moving consumer goods?
Okay.
Which I guess Belkin fits into that.
So in the U.S. parlance, that would be CPG, consumer packaged goods.
Got it. Okay.
Us Brits, eh?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, you think about FMCG, CPG space, right? That's really where electronics has gone, right? It really is another fast-moving category, right? People need our products day in and out. They lose them, they're playing with them, they're trying new things. So it's a very fast pace. So really, it's about being true to the brand, about having that brand be authentic, and in every touch point that we engage with our customers, it's very important that you live those beliefs and you deliver the experiences that the brand stands for. So that's really where we spend all of our time, really ensuring that everything we do really lives to that brand proposition in the marketplace. And then inflaming it. When people love our brand, of course, amplify it and share that love, and that's what we do, celebrate the experiences they have with the products and getting that into the marketplace. So communities for us are very, very important. Reviews very, very important. How people see our products, interact with our products, both good and areas where they have suggestions for new products. So we get a lot of feedback on things that people would like to see when they try our products, other things they want to do, and we take that into the product development consideration. So we get a lot of great feedback like that as well.
Okay. Now, there's been a lot of talk lately, and VentureBeat has been covering this quite a bit in the marketing world, where the vast influx of data that companies' websites are generating or that consumers are generating from poking around on websites, social media data, feedback on what emails people are actually clicking through on. There's a vast amount of data available to marketing teams that wasn't 10 or even 5 years ago. And that's really changing the role of the CMO and kind of making CMOs much more technical, much more data-driven, much less kind of seat-of-the-pants, hunch-driven, statistically minded, as well as technologically savvy, right? Because there are a lot of tools that you guys have to deal with now. Tell me a little bit about how you think about that and how Belkin is embracing data in its business.
Data is obviously very, very important. We use data to remove a lot of subjectivity from conversations, right? Everyone's a marketer, and people come with their own opinions and beliefs, and that's fine. But in some cases, they're not necessarily the target audience. So we always try to make sure we put ourselves in the mind of who our users are and what they are trying to accomplish. So that's very, very important. We use data in a bunch of ways. For instance, we live and die by the Net Promoter Score. That's a very, very important metric as a company that we stand by. And so we do it for our brands, and we do it for our products in our brands. And so every product team, every marketer knows what the Net Promoter Score is and the impact of that promoter score. So that's one example. Another example, obviously, is ratings. That's a very important data point that we use. So how many stars our products get, we really track that very, very closely.
You're talking about on sites like Amazon where they're being sold, or
Amazon, our own site, everything that we do. Ratings is a very, very important metric that we follow. And you know what? When you think about reviews today, particularly in our category, more searches now happen on Amazon in the consumer electronics space than actually on Google. And so when you look at reviews on a site like Amazon and other sites, those reviews are really content. Right? It's content. It's educating people about your product. And it's no better place than other people rave about your product. So we really, really spend a lot of time ensuring that our products live up to those standards.
Is that kind of data easy to extract from Amazon? Is it easy for you to get and utilize data on ratings and searches?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
you go in there and you can see all the reviews. You know, are we 4.2 stars out of 5? Exactly. We track that all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, and of course, reviews on our own sites, reviews on other sites. Our customer advocacy team spends a lot of time reviewing that as well. So we call our customer care organization customer advocacy, and that really is, advocating the point of the customer in everything that we do. So it's very, very important to us as well. So again, I'm talking about data besides the typical data that an organization would get. I'm trying to amplify the different areas that we look at data outside, conversion rates and open rates and so forth. Marketing campaign metrics that we're all used to, right?
Yes.
The other thing that we do, for instance, we do 3 days after someone buys a product, we actually survey that person to see what the experience was with that product. We do 3 days, we do a month, and we do 3 months, and really, really help understand those products that are really making a difference in the marketplace, ensuring that they're delivering upon that. So data we use consistently, but we use data as one major input. We do a lot of qualitative research. We actually have a focus group facility on site here, and so I call it agile research. We're doing research day in, day out with our users, getting feedback on new products, existing products, product enhancements. And then overnight, we can iterate. We have, with 3D printing and our model shops here, we can revise those products and the models, and then the next day go back in and get people's reaction to that. So again, data, it helps inform the conversation, but there's no better way to really engage and interact with users and how they're going to use your products and get that valuable feedback as well. So I would always encourage people, just don't use data for the sake of data, because it can be a little bit rearview mirror looking, and make sure that you understand where you're going. So balance the quantitative with the qualitative. It's very, very important.
Just through what you were saying there, it seems that you've got touch points into traditional style marketing with the focus groups. You've got touch points into massive amounts of data, databases, relational data, data scraping. You've got all of these mixtures of effectively marketing and engineering going on. And one of the things we've been talking about a lot recently is the CMO and the CIO and how they are clashing with each other or possibly connecting with each other. It makes me wonder, how does a CMO and CIO within an organization like Belkin actually work together, or do you not work together? Is there that friction and you're trying to figure that out?
Actually, our CIO is wonderful, Deanna Johnson, and she and I partner very, very closely. And just to demonstrate how close of a partnership we have, we share the same executive assistant. That's how close we are. Seriously, day in, day out, we're constantly talking. Our office is next to mine, and we really, really engage in very meaningful conversations that are strategic about the company, and then very quickly talk about tactical things as well. So the amount of collaboration we have between us and our teams, it's a very seamless, and it's wonderful.
So where do you divide the effort between the CMO side and the CIO side, or are they effectively merging in you're like a sort of a two-headed machine at that point?
No, not necessarily, because we have different functional responsibilities, and we have different perspectives. We complement one another, and you get the power up too. It's greater. We're very much in sync, and not only just with the CIO. Our CTO is another great example. Brian Van Harlegen. We're very much in sync. So as an executive team, it's a super group. I'm very fortunate to be working with them because we all have our own functional areas, but we really help enhance each other in totality of what we're doing for the company.
And how can other companies copy that? What are the key things they need to do to make that happen?
Yeah.
You know what? You have to have the culture that really allows that to come to life. And we've got a very powerful culture. We have very strong shared values, and that's how we go to market. So I think the culture is very, very important, where we're all focused on the same task at hand. We're all focused on the same business objectives, and we just strive to achieve that. So I think that clarity of communication, that ongoing day-to-day engagement, I think it's real important. I know some companies where the CIO could be in a different building, but not even in the same building as some of the other teams. I think that's real important for the teams that you work closely with to be together and do things together. We do that quite a bit. We actually do a lot of social things outside work. We do a lot of beer blasts. We celebrate wins, and the IT team, the marketing teams, and digital teams, we all go out and do stuff together. So we like to work with each other. We enjoy what we're doing, and again, celebrating the wins is very important as well. So I encourage people to do that.
I'm wondering if it's sort of always been that way, or if in the last couple of years there had to be sort of a culture shift or an adaptation where people started thinking about marketing in a different way, and it became more closely wedded to what the IT people are doing.
It could be that, or it could be the other way around, right? I think marketing has certainly been leading certain things, and I think, as you guys know, right, software and how much easier it is today with software than it had been in the past, right? So there's a speed to market component, and just having that alignment is so critical, and so that's where we spend a lot of time together as an organization, is making sure we're aligned around the same priorities so everyone knows what we're doing. And then equally important is then things that we're not doing. It's not because they're good ideas, it's just that don't fit in the roadmap right today, and communicating that across the teams is very important as well, so they know where everything stands. We do a monthly web management board meeting. We do quarterly steering committee meetings, again, where we talk about the projects that were completed, the projects that are in the pipeline about to be lit up, and where we are in each of those. So again, I think the transparency, we're a very, very transparent organization. And that, I think, is a fundamental belief that you must have for success. Transparency with our numbers. Everyone in the organization knows the financial numbers.
Oh, wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, again, back to that full transparency.
The marketing technology world is very confusing to lots of people because there are thousands of vendors out there in dozens of different categories. It might be very helpful to our listeners if you could describe a little bit of what your marketing tech stack looks like. What are the key components that Belkin is using?
I'm going to take something we're doing right now, which might be a big surprise to you guys. From a digital asset management standpoint, we actually have a number of different platforms globally. Belkin was at one point a very regional organization, went to market from a very regional standpoint. And so the marketing teams over the years was built up from a regional country perspective. I'm the first CMO the company's ever had. The first year was really evaluating the right organizational structure, getting the right talent in the right roles, and building that out. So the organizational structure was the first part of year one. The second part of year two is now how do we go to market and how do we ensure that everything's fully aligned. So again, for example, we're using these different assets around the world, and that's not necessarily a great reflection of the brand in some cases. And chasing things, a lot of stuff is done by email. So we are now implementing a digital asset management platform that will be the one platform for all of our marketing teams around the world to use. Then on top of that, we'll be implementing a marketing resource management tool to really enable those assets as well. So today, a lot of the team is focused on kind of chasing dates without actually having the ability to do the work. So we'll find a lot of efficiencies and effectiveness there. So again, from a technology standpoint, as a technology company, in some areas we have some amazing tools. Marketing is now playing a little bit of a catch-up from a technology stack standpoint. So I'm doing some very fundamental things today. And we have a process that we're about to select the winner of that process. We've been doing it for like the last 3 months right now in a very diligent manner. And again, that's another area I partner very, very closely with our CIO and our IT team, and very engaged in that process. So I rely on that team immensely to help us come to some of those decisions that we're going to make as an organization. And it's not just making those decisions, and then it's helping to implement those as well. It's very, very important. I would say you think of us as having a rich technology stack. We do in some ways. For instance, we've got a very large Salesforce implementation, tens of millions of accounts in there. And those are our customer contacts over the years. And that's a very rich minefield of information that we understand about how products are in the marketplace. And so
tens of millions. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a huge database, yes.
Yeah, it's a very, very huge. And again, it comes back to our customer advocacy organization is a very, very important role in the company, and that's where all the accounts are maintained and managed, so that when somebody calls in or has a question or an issue, we're able to very quickly address that for them, whether it's an ongoing issue or a new issue or just something, even some product feedback. We want to make sure that we capture it and able to get to the right people. So a lot of reviews happen there. So that's a big part of managing communities. And then, as you can imagine, from a CRM standpoint, the platforms we use to engage with those people, not just from product enhancements, for instance, with our code keyboards, our Bluetooth keyboards for tablets and iPads. We're just launching a new app for our code keyboard. So we're able to communicate with those people that have bought that product to let them know there's now a new enhancement for that product that they can download and have the latest software to continue to get the most out of those products. That's a great customer experience, and we love to surprise and delight customers in that manner.
Cool.
What were the unique challenges of bringing in everything that Linksys already had? Because that's always an issue in an M&A process. You do all of your financial due diligence, but sometimes technical and cultural goes by the wayside, and you deal with that afterwards. How has that been for you?
Yeah, that's... So fortunately, we know that category well. Networking, Belkin is in the networking category, so it wasn't a category that was new to us. So we went into that acquisition with our eyes pretty wide open. So, and that's one of the reasons why Cisco was really happy as well to see Linksys come to home. That they knew that we understand the importance of that brand and the part that brand has in the marketplace, and we're going to give it its due deference. So they were very pleased to see Linksys come to a home like Belkin. So you would think in those scenarios it could have been a pain point. For us, not at all. We hit the ground running very, very quickly. There were some great things that team was doing there that we've embraced within the Belkin family as well. And so it was really just again, back to the point of objectively going through everything and understanding which systems and which approaches were working better and adopting those. So we celebrated a lot of great things that Linksys was doing and brought them into the Belkin family. It was the very quick integration, and again, a great example of the CIO and the rest of our teams here, the product teams and HR and so forth, really pretty amazing how quickly that integration happened.
Cool.
And I think that's partly because we're a private company. it gives us the ability to do things pretty quickly sometimes.
Yes, that would be a big advantage. You can move a lot more nimbly when you don't have public market shareholders breathing over your shoulder. Kieren, we're unfortunately just about out of time here, so I just want to say thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us on VentureBeat's What to Think podcast. It's been a real pleasure talking with you.
Thank you, Dylan. Thank you, Stuart. Wonderful chatting with you guys today.
All right, Kieran Hannon, the Chief Marketing Officer of Belkin. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Bye. Well, you've been listening to What to Think, VentureBeat's technology news podcast. As always, you can find us online at venturebeat.com, and you can find this podcast in the iTunes Music Store, on SoundCloud. Just search for What to Think and subscribe to us there. We will be grateful to you forever. Until next time, I'm Dylan Sweeney.
And I'm Jordan Novak.
And we'll catch you next time.